types of scraps do you use when making cards? Wait, what? There are different types of scraps? Of course there are. Let's rethink your scraps and get crafting. The easiest and most common thing that we as card makers use are strips. Now they can be solids or patterns. I keep my solids together grouped by color and all my patterns in one drawer. These are 3-drawer systems that I use. And then I take my pattern paper out and I'm going to separate by size and shape. Now I've already done this. All my larger pieces are still in the drawer. And I've separated into these thin strips, wider strips, and then up at the top left, you'll see that I've got some just random shapes. But once I've got the shapes and the size sorted out, I sort by color. Another common thing that you can do with your leftover offcuts, particularly white or black, is to create sentiment strips. You can die cut them or stamp and emboss them. I store them in baseball card pockets and I have them just in a binder. This works out really well for me. One-stop shopping. Now, I think of scraps as anything that I've cut into or don't like particularly. Face it, if you don't like it, you're probably not going to use it, but I want to change how you think about that. Now, these are 12 by 12 papers. Now, inside, I can use those strips to make cards. These are a little large. But there's definitely some patterns in here that I don't care for. You can also use those cut aparts. That could be considered a scrap. More strips that you can make beautiful cards with. Not something I'd use necessarily as a whole piece of cardstock, but I could tear them apart and use them. How about my plaids? Some of these are pretty, some of them not so much, and I probably wouldn't use them. So I'd consider some of those scraps as well. Now this paper pack I happen to really like. There's a lot of foiled cardstock in this one, and I like the cut aparts. But I find that I haven't really used it very often, and I need to use what I've got. So we're going to toy with that a little later on. Now I seriously need to get cracking on Christmas cards if I'm going to get them done in time. But you can use any of these techniques for any type of card that you're looking to do. Speaking of getting your holiday cards done early this year, join me for this year's Card Makers Success Summit Holiday Edition. It's going to be a crafty wonderland of techniques guaranteed to make your holiday cards so special this year. Best part, it's free, and you can enjoy it from the comforts of your home because it's virtual. It all happens from July 31st through August the 3rd of 2025. Now, the free ticket gets you 24 hours to watch the speakers that are released each day. I'm not sure what day my class is going to be on, but I'm super excited to share it with you. Check the description box below where I'll leave a link so you can grab your free ticket before it's too late. Now, I've separated my strips by like size and similar colors. I wanted some of the colors to be present in most of the strips. I like pinks and blues together. I'm using Bearly Arts Precision Craft Glue, but you could use whatever type of adhesive you have, including double-sided adhesive. I'm not real worried about it not making it to the end of my quarter panel. This is an A2 size quarter panel because I'm going to use my postage stamp die to cut it down. Be sure to stick around until the end because I'm going to show you all the cards we made, and there are quite a few of them, with just using scraps. Of course, you can position your strips any way you want, straight up and down, horizontally, diagonally. I tend to go towards a diagonal because it's not so easy to see the imperfections. As in a vertical card, you're going to see it if it's not quite vertical. So diagonal it is for me. Now you can also leave a little space between these strips and that will show through a little white space. Just depends on your final look. I've just decided to go ahead and butt them all up against one another, glue them down, and then we're going to go ahead and die cut it. With my strips all adhered to my card base, I'm going to go ahead and cut off any remaining card strips with my Tim Holtz long bladed scissors. I really like these scissors. They're great to use and they're easy to clean. A little alcohol and a paper towel and any of that adhesive comes right off. They are titanium shears. It doesn't matter about the bottom. I'm going to fix that. And I'm going to go ahead and run this through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I love my Spellbinders postage stamp dies. You'll see them all the time because I truly love them. So there was still a little piece of that pattern paper that didn't quite match up with the die, so I just added another strip and went ahead and die cut it. So nobody's ever going to be the wiser. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down to my card base. I use Accent Opaque 100-pound card stock for my bases. I buy them in the 11 by 17 size and cut them down. Much, much more cost effective. I do them in bulk and I just have them sitting there ready to go. There is no denying that this is a super busy background, so I'm going to tone it down. And I'm using this older set called Spellbinders Nestability. This is the beaded circles die set, and I'm going to cut that out of vellum. The size that I chose has a perfect center for my Christmas and winter printables and sentiment set. I have some circular sentiments, so they're a little unusual. And look, I just add glue and add it to the center of that vellum piece. It's really lovely. And I'm just going to hold it down with an acrylic block to get a good adhesion. Vellum can be tricky to adhere and not see the glue, but in this case, I'm using a sentiment and I'm just putting glue behind the sentiment. You could also use foam to pop it up. You could certainly add other embellishments, but I thought this one was busy enough, and here's a non-traditional Christmas card using nothing but scraps. That vellum was scraps too. Do you have old backgrounds from techniques that you've tried? Consider it a scrap. I'm going to also use this Spellbinders die set called Twinkle Lights and my postage dies, of course. So I have taken a purpley, glimmery background from heaven knows what I was trying, but it didn't quite go with what I thought it was going to go with. So I'm going to make it go. So I've cut out my Twinkle Lights, and again, those are white paper strips that were just lying around and some old metallic card that really was just little bips and bobs, and I created the Twinkle Lights for that. But you see, it blends into the background. So I've gone ahead and using dark green scraps, I've cut out the background again, and I'm simply going to snip off the light portion and do an overlay onto those white the white backgrounds. I could have used it on another card, or I could have just tossed it, but why? I already had it made and I was invested, so by just cutting another background in a different color and using my glue to adhere it as an overlay, it works beautifully. And now it will show up against that purpley background, and I love purple and greens. Again, non-traditional, but whatever, it works for me. So I am finally ready to go, and I'm just adhering my card panels together, and we're going to get this moving. Now I'm creating layers, but I tend to not use things like foam tape. I don't particularly care for it, but if you want to pop this up, another great use for your scraps, particularly white scraps, is to use it in place of foam. You can certainly layer a piece of cardstock or strips of cardstock behind this, and it will give you the same effect as foam tape would. And it usually stays together longer than foam that gets dried out over time. While I completely applaud you for using your stash, there are many people out there who just need to get a closer look at the things that we card makers are using. So I will link everything that I can find that's still available. A lot of this is very old, but if it's still available, I'll list it in the description box below, along with a link to my PayHip digital store. So I have a storefront, and I have quite a few free items on there. And a lot of the sentiments that you're going to see today are from my Christmas and winter printables and sentiments set. But definitely take a peek at it, because you might find something that'll come in handy for your card making, and it just might be free. Finish this one off with a sentiment, and it's done. Ready to go. For my next card, I went back to this paper pack, which was actually given to me a long time ago, and much of it I don't care for, and a lot of it's just simply not my style. But I went ahead and pulled a piece of 12 by 12 out, and I'm going to cut it down to A2 size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now I'm using my FISKARS paper trimmer. You can certainly use whatever trimmer you have, but just a tip, if you do have this one and it starts to get a little rough where it's not cutting the paper cleanly, flip your blade over and you'll get longer use out of it. Now I thought I was going to dig through my white paper scraps and kind of dull that background down, but then I had an idea. Let's kind of cover it with a background die. Now this is by Tall Mouse. It's called Lattice Cover Plate, and lo and behold, I already had one cut. Another scrap. So look at this. I've dulled down that pattern and I already had it made ready to go. Add some glue and we've got a finished background in a relatively short period of time. You don't even need a full panel background die. If you just have a small piece of white cardstock, die cut part of it and use it to take away from that background that you really didn't like. Now this is a Tim Holtz die set. This one is called Colorize Trimetry, and it's a couple years old. And I made this tree ages ago, probably a couple years ago. And I was really channeling my 70s childhood with this silver tree. My neighbors had a silver tree up on a pedestal that rotated, and it had different color lights to change the color of the tree. And I thought it was the most beautiful tree on the planet. So that's where my inspiration came for this one. And I'm simply going to finish this card off with a very simple sentiment. Inquiring minds just have to know, did you have one of those Christmas trees growing up? If you did, tell me about it in the comments below. Moving back to my strips, these are all fall colors, and I'm going to cut some of the strips down to different varying sizes. I'm not really measuring, I'm just kind of cutting them and, well, letting the chips fall where they may. This is going to make a lot. I'm only going to show you the one, but yeah, this is a great technique. For this card, I'm going to do some really basic paper weaving. Now, I've just put a bead of glue along the bottom of that first strip that I've laid vertical on my card panel. And I'm holding it down with a piece of mint tape. That's a temporary tape, and it's just going to allow my glue to dry just a little bit. And I'm taking a different paper strip and laying it over the first. I'm not really worried about where it lands on the card. For the next part, I'm going to choose another paper strip, and this time I'm going to place it under that first strip. I'm going to speed this up a little, and I'm going to continue to add paper strips over and under. I've chosen to leave a little bit of white space, and then I'm going to do some vertical strips and do the exact same thing in that over-under pattern. And it's going to be really a lovely background with a very simple technique. Now, you can push these really close together. At the end, I'm going to show you another example of paper weaving, and you can create paper weaving behind an aperture, so behind an opening in your card panel. And that's one of my favorite cards, and I've held on to it because I love it so much I can't seem to part with it. But I will show you that example at the very end. Once you have the number of paper strips on that you want, go ahead and just kind of flip the card over and gently add some glue, as you're going to see me do here, and then paste it on down. Trim off any overhanging card bits and add your embellishments. This is another card panel that's been sitting around for a couple of years. It's made up of odd-shaped trimmings, so any wonky bits of card or paper can be glued to make mosaics. I've once again used a postage stamp die to give it a little bit more interest, and I've left that white space there. Here I am dragging out my favorite poinsettia die. This one is from Spellbinders, I believe. And as I'm dragging out the pieces, I find that I had already die cut this in silver. So I'm going to use those leftover scraps of silver cardstock to make a poinsettia to add to this highly unusual, not traditional Christmas card. The white space really breaks up all of that color. And again, pinks and purples, not traditional, but definitely going to be made into a Christmas card. I'm adding a die cut Noel sentiment that once again, I just had lying around. And I'm not even sure I know where this one came from. I'm sure it's a die set. I just don't know which one off the top of my head. Now, I've already glued together my layers of silver poinsettia, and I'm using a chopstick to kind of give it a little bit of shape just by shaping up those leaves. Add that silver and hold it down, and there we go. Another card, quick and easy. Ugly panels from things that just didn't work out. I'm going to die cut these large joy and Noel words right from these really ugly panels, and I'm going to use them. This can be a quick card if you just search through panels that you may have die cut or used texture paste on. And I'm just pairing it up to see what I'm going to like and what I can use. Use tiny scraps with tiny die cuts to help finish off the inside of your cards. Check out the video I'll link here on other ways you can finish off the inside of your cards as well. Ugly papers also make great envelopes or liners for envelopes. I've given you 14 ways to use your paper scraps in ways that will get your card making done on the cheap. So let's take a look at all of these finished cards. Here's a full paper weaving behind that aperture that I was telling you about. I love that card. Tiny snippets of metallic cardstock finish off the front and inside of both of these cards. Use up your backgrounds, including ugly papers, to make fabulous cards. Now don't forget, you can partially cut a background like I did here. Don't let those wonky bits go to waste. You can use them. Don't go just yet. I've picked out a couple of videos I think you're going to love. Until next time, I'll see you real soon.